As the morning progressed and the Mongol beachhead expanded with mechanical efficiency, thunder crash bombs exploded among Japanese horses, causing panic and chaos. Poisoned arrows found gaps in samurai armor that had never been designed to stop massed projectiles. Korean infantry formed shield walls that katana swords could not penetrate through sheer skill alone. The technological mismatch was absolute and undeniable. Then, Soosuke Kuni gave an order that seemed to confirm Mongol assumptions about Japanese irrationality. As smoke rose from villages burning behind them, Sukekuni had ordered civilians evacuated and everything torched to deny the Mongols immediate resupply. The remaining samurai formed not a defensive position, but a parade line. They stood shoulder to shoulder on the beach as if preparing for ceremony rather than slaughter. Hong Dagu, commanding from his ship offshore, reportedly asked his translator 3 times, "What are they doing?" The answer, when it came, made no tactical sense. They are preparing to die beautifully. And so they did. Individual samurai would ride forward, announce their names and lineage in formal terms, and charge directly into the massed Mongol forces. Each attack ended the same way, arrows filling the air, the samurai falling, his horse screaming and thrashing. Each death took precious minutes as the ritual unfolded. Each ceremony forced thousands of Mongol troops to stand and watch as warriors chose death over any tactical compromise. The psychological impact rippled through the invasion force immediately. Mongol conscripts, many of them Chinese and Korean soldiers fighting for their Mongol overlords out of necessity rather than loyalty, began whispering about Japanese demons who loved death more than life. The civilian evacuation pattern Sukekuni had ordered served dual purposes. Smoke from burning villages obscured sightlines and prevented Mongol cavalry from charging through settled areas. The scorched earth policy meant no immediate food or shelter for the invaders. But more importantly, the visible streams of refugees fleeing inland sent a message: these warriors are not defending resources or territory. They are defending ideas, principles that matter more than villages or crops. Every Japanese you kill will die exactly like this. Every beach, every valley, every foot of Japanese soil will cost you warriors who fight like men already dead. 3 hours into the invasion, Mongol forces had established a secure beachhead at the cost of fewer than 50 casualties. Japanese losses stood at 23 samurai dead, each one dying in individual charges that achieved nothing measurable in tactical terms. Then Sukekuni raised his war fan and gave the order that would define the battle's legacy. All remaining samurai would attack together in one final coordinated charge. Not using terrain cleverly, not employing tactical surprise, not attempting any maneuver that might actually succeed. A frontal assault across open beach directly into the concentrated killing power of 20,000 Mongol warriors. 57 samurai formed a single line, their horses stamping and snorting. 200 meters of sand separated them from the Mongol army. Sukekuni's war cry split the morning air, and 57 horses exploded forward. The sound was primal and terrifying, hoofbeats like thunder rolling across the beach, warriors screaming their death poems and family names to the sky. The metallic ring of drawn katanas catching sunlight as blades left scabbards. The Mongol response demonstrated why they had conquered half the known world. Drum signals coordinated 3 precisely timed volleys. First arrows at 150 meters, darkening the sky like a locust plague. Samurai tumbled from saddles. Horses screamed and fell. Second volley at 100 meters, more carefully aimed at gaps in armor and exposed flesh. Third volley at 50 meters, point blank, annihilation from every angle. But then came something the Mongols did not expect. 31 samurai somehow survived the arrow storm and crashed into the Mongol front line at full gallop. Suddenly, individual combat skills mattered. Katanas, perfectly weighted and balanced for mounted warfare, carved through Korean spearmen before they could set their weapons. Naginata polearms swung from horseback shattered shield walls. The mathematics suggested 31 men among 20,000 should disappear like raindrops in the ocean. Instead, they carved a bloody wedge 50 meters deep into Mongol formations. The answer to this impossibility lay in Mongol tactical doctrine. Infantry formations designed for coordinated arrow volleys were packed too tightly for individual maneuver. Friendly fire became a genuine danger. Archers could not shoot without hitting their own men. Mongol soldiers trained for steppe warfare found themselves trapped in dense formations on sand. Taira no Kagehiro, older brother of the boy who had died issuing challenges, personally killed 7 Mongol warriors before a Chinese pike found his horse's heart. As he fell, mortally wounded, he performed the ritual of seppuku, rather than be captured cutting his own belly even as enemy soldiers surrounded him. The act paralyzed nearby Mongols who had never witnessed a warrior choosing such agonizing death when enemy swords were readily available to end his suffering quickly. Mongol commanders, recognizing the danger of allowing samurai to penetrate their lines and cause chaos, ordered a tactical withdrawal. Drums signaled the maneuver. Korean infantry began stepping back in practiced formation, creating space to use their range advantage. But the samurai played their final card. Instead of allowing the withdrawal, they dismounted. On foot, wearing heavy armor, standing on sand that shifted treacherously underfoot, they charged deeper into enemy lines. It was suicide made manifest, but it was calculated suicide. Hong Dagu watched from his command position, growing increasingly disturbed. His interpreter explained, "They seek death within your ranks. They believe dying surrounded by enemies guarantees eternal honor and ensures their spirits will haunt this battlefield forever." The Mongol general spat in disgust and gave the order, "Then give them what they seek." Thunder crash bombs detonated among the dismounted samurai. The concussive force alone killed 3 warriors, their armor providing no protection against the physics of explosive overpressure. Poisoned arrows found every gap in their defenses. Korean maces, wielded by men who had crushed rebellions across Asia, smashed through helmets. The technological superiority finally, inexorably, asserted itself. But even as samurai died, they maintained their psychological warfare. Mortally wounded warriors did not simply fall. They attempted to write final poems with their own blood on pieces of armor. They died facing the enemy, never showing their backs in retreat. Some held combat positions on their knees, even after death, propped upright by armor and sheer force of will, creating the illusion that corpses continued fighting. The impact on Mongol conscripts was immediate and profound. Whispers spread through the ranks. These are not human warriors. These are spirits, demons, something other. Modern military analysts examining the battle have discovered the true genius hidden in apparent madness. Every ritualistic death consumed time. Every ceremony slowed the Mongol advance. By 11 o'clock in the morning, the invasion timeline was 3 hours behind schedule. Supply ships waited offshore, with nowhere to unload. Reinforcement waves stacked up on landing craft. The entire operation, predicated on achieving quick victory and using Tsushima as a forward staging base, began to collapse under delays caused by 80 men dying slowly and deliberately. Only 12 samurai remained standing when the sun reached its zenith. So Sukekuni stood among them, wounded but conscious, his armor bearing the marks of arrows that had struck but not penetrated. They had fought so deeply into Mongol lines that they now stood near the enemy command position. What happened next shocked even battle-hardened Mongol veterans. Sukekuni identified the banner of Korean General Kim Bang-young. Instead of seeking any avenue of escape, the 12 survivors formed a final wedge and charged directly at the command group. Hundreds of elite guards surrounded the generals, yet the samurai attacked anyway because impossibility had been their constant companion all morning. The final charge was pure Bushido distilled to its essence. So Sukekuni personally cut down 3 guards before a Korean sword found his thigh, severing muscle and tendon. He dismounted, bleeding heavily, and continued on foot. His remaining men followed, each step a defiance of pain and physics and probability. They made it 30 meters through 300 fresh guards, far enough for Kim Bang-young to see Sukekuni's eyes directly, to understand the message being delivered in blood and steel. Every island will be like this, every village, every valley. Every Japanese warrior will die exactly like this, choosing death over submission, making you pay in blood and time and morale for every foot of ground. At 19 minutes past 11, So Sukekuni fell to his knees, 17 wounds making further movement impossible. But even then, even as life drained from severed arteries, he maintained rigid eye contact with the Korean general. He performed the ritual preparation for death with hands that trembled from blood loss but never wavered in purpose. His death poem, found later written on a piece of armor, read, "Morning frost melts to reveal steel beneath, cherry blossoms scatter." The mountain endures. The last samurai fell at 24 minutes past 11. The Battle of Komoda Beach had lasted less than 4 hours. 80 samurai lay dead in the sand and surf. Victory was absolute and undeniable. But the statistics that emerged told a story that disturbed Mongol commanders deeply. Their casualties exceeded 300 dead, with another 200 wounded. A force advantage of 250 to 1 had yielded only a 4 to 1 casualty ratio. Worse, the dead included 43 officers who had led from the front and paid the price, but numbers alone could not capture the psychological damage. Wounded Mongol soldiers told stories that spread through the ranks like plague. Samurai who fought with mortal wounds that should have killed them instantly. Warriors who smiled while dying as if greeting a beloved friend. Men who seemed to welcome death like a lover coming home. The reports created unease that mere casualties could not explain. Then scouts examining the battlefield discovered something that sent chills through the command structure. The samurai bodies had not fallen randomly. They had died in deliberate formation, creating an arrow shape pointing inland. Even in death, they were leading the enemy forward, deeper into Japan. The message could not have been clearer. Come, follow us into death. Every step inland is a step into hell. We have 10,000 more warriors waiting who will die exactly like this. As the last samurai fell and silence descended on Komoda Beach, broken only by the moaning of wounded and the eternal crash of waves, something unexpected rippled through Mongol ranks. Each samurai corpse, when examined, revealed white strips of cloth sewn carefully inside the armor funeral shrouds prepared before battle. They had dressed for death before marching to the beach. This was not desperation born of circumstances. This was premeditation, calculation. Warriors who had planned their own deaths as carefully as any military campaign. The Mongol response to complete victory revealed their fundamental mistake. Instead of immediately advancing inland to capitalize on momentum, they spent 6 hours securing the beach area. They burned villages already evacuated. They executed elderly civilians who had refused to flee, choosing death in their homes over life as refugees. Kim Bangyang ordered atrocities meant to terrorize heads mounted on spears, bodies mutilated for display. But he had catastrophically misunderstood Japanese psychology. Every atrocity was witnessed by hidden scouts who carried detailed reports to the mainland. So Sukakuni's final orders found on his lieutenant's body contained intelligence worth more than any tactical victory. He had turned his men into a reconnaissance force, gathering information even as they died. The messages scratched onto armor before battle were not prayers, but technical observations. Arrows less effective against leather at 30 meters. Horse charges can penetrate shield walls at weak points. Thunder bombs have 3-second delay after impact. This intelligence spread across Japan within days, giving defenders the knowledge they needed to resist effectively. The death toll analysis provided crucial strategic data. Mongol arrows most effective at 50 to 100 meters. Thunder crash bombs devastating but limited in supply. Mongol cavalry struggled in sand and restricted terrain. Most critically, the battle revealed that Mongol forces depended on conscript cooperation, and conscripts could be demoralized. Modern forensic analysis reveals tactical genius hidden in apparent madness. The samurai charge patterns forced Mongols to expend approximately 40,000 arrows, nearly their entire initial supply for siege operations. The prolonged beach battle exhausted thunder bomb reserves meant for reducing castle fortifications, but the psychological warfare succeeded beyond any rational expectation. That night, Mongol camps filled with nervous conscripts telling stories of Japanese demons. Korean sailors whispered about cursed waters. Chinese engineers wondered what fortifications awaited on the mainland if defenders of an unfortified beach had fought so savagely. As sunset approached, Kim Bangyang made the decision that would ultimately doom the invasion. Instead of advancing immediately to establish a forward base as planned, Mongol forces would camp overnight on the beach. They needed rest, resupply, and time to process what they had witnessed. 80 deaths had bought Japan 18 crucial hours. Messages were already racing across the mainland. The Mongols could be hurt, could be slowed, could be made to bleed. Most importantly, their conscript armies could be demoralized. Within 24 hours, Sukakuni's tactical observations had spread to every defending commander. Samurai across Japan studied how 80 men had inflicted 500 casualties. They learned to target officers, exploit thunderbomb delays, attack supply lines. But the psychological impact exceeded any tactical lessons. The story of Tsushima's last stand spread like wildfire through a dry forest. Poets composed ballads. Priests declared the 80 samurai as kami, protective spirits. Most crucially, the fractured samurai clans united for the first time in generations. If 80 men could face 20,000, what could 10,000 accomplish together? When Mongol forces finally landed at Hakata Bay, they faced not scattered defenders, but organized resistance implementing Tsushima's lessons. The fierce Japanese resistance prolonged fighting until seasonal storms approached. When the kamikaze divine wind destroyed the Mongol fleet, Japanese defenders saw it as the 80 samurai spirits defending their homeland from beyond death. The mathematical elegance astounds historians even now. 80 lives bought 18 hours. Those 18 hours became 3 days of Mongol hesitation. Those 3 days allowed Japanese mobilization. That mobilization created prolonged resistance. That resistance extended fighting into storm season. The storms destroyed the invasion. The Mongol Empire, which had conquered from Poland to Korea, never successfully invaded Japan. The seeds of that failure were planted on a beach in Tsushima where 80 men chose meaningful death over meaningless survival. If this story of sacrifice transformed into strategy moved you, subscribe to Flow of History for more tales of the moments when courage and calculation changed the world forever. Ring the notification bell and join us as we explore the human decisions behind history's greatest turning points.